Welcome to the Cal Park Bros podcast. I'm your host, Terrence, and with me is my co-host, Jason, calling in from the Bat Cave in Indianapolis. Jason, how are you, my good man?
Hey, I'm doing pretty well, man. It's another time to record an episode of our lovely podcast. I don't know, man. It seems like I don't want to say this a lot, but it seems like the time in your head that it takes to get from Tuesday to Tuesday, week to week, is like getting longer. It's like I feel like I haven't seen you in like a month, but it's only been 7 days.
Yeah, must be that time change that doesn't exist in Indiana, right?
Actually, it does at the moment.
Yeah, but
Don't
they're
know
trying
why.
to legislate it out. That's hilarious.
I don't know why it gets used at all anywhere. But that's maybe a topic for another day. Not today.
Yep.
Maybe we'll bring it up next year around the time frame next year when it's time to do the change again. So
Yeah, let's do the time change again. Thank you for listening. This is episode 31 of the Cal Park Bros podcast. For the uninitiated, Cal Park Bros is the podcast to hear. We are a weekly podcast for fans of culture, current events, sports, life, and entertainment.
And as always, we're your hosts, Terrence and Jason, and every single Thursday we bring to you a brand new episode where we discuss the current events of the day, the sports, and the athletes we love.
And even some of the athletes we loathe. Folks, no matter the topic, you can expect a brutally honest and fun exchange of snark while learning through the lens of our 30 years of friendship that originated in Calumet Park, Illinois.
For more Cal Park Bros content, connect with us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, and TikTok for more behind the scenes of the show and just to engage with us every single day. But most importantly, don't forget that the Cal Park Bros podcast is available to subscribe and listen for free wherever you listen to podcasts.
Like us, love us, share us, follow us. And folks, if you like us, hell, why wouldn't you?
At this point, you guys should be loving us right now. Definitely liking us for sure. Now, hey, I've been seeing more people, like new people, actually, sharing us too. People that just subscribed to the show recently, they're sharing us already. I'm like, hey, that's what I'm talking about. They hear it once and they're hooked. It's like the hook, hook them.
Yeah, man. That consistent content, dog. Once we got to a cadence, we are here for you.
Who's Cadence?
All right.
I don't know Cadence.
I feel like I can't even respond with anything witty to that. The first segment is going to be an article from NPR about the OSHA regulations related to the vaccine mandate for employers. This is an article by Andrea Hsu. This is updated November 4th, but basically it's titled Biden's vaccine rules for 100 million workers are here. Here are the details. Basically, the deadline is January 4th, right? So the first rule issued by the Occupational Safety and Health Administration, otherwise known as OSHA, covers companies with 100 or more employees and applies to an estimated 84 million workers. Companies must ensure either that their workers are fully vaccinated against COVID, whatever the hell that means, or by January 4th, or that they test negative for the coronavirus at least once a week. Workers must get paid time off to get vaccinated. Under this rule by OSHA, employers must pay workers for the time it takes to get vaccinated and provide sick leave for workers to recover from any side effects. Employers don't need to pay for testing, in a move that appears designated to push workers to choose vaccinations over testing. The rule does not require employers to pay for or provide testing to workers who decline the vaccine. However, collective bargaining agreements or circumstances may dictate otherwise. Unvaccinated people must wear masks. Unvaccinated workers must also wear face coverings while on the job. This requirement goes into effect December 6th. Healthcare workers don't have a testing option under a separate rule. A second issue issued by the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services requires some 17 million healthcare workers to be vaccinated by the same deadline, January 4th, but with no option for weekly testing in lieu of vaccination. So, yeah. We've been waiting for this to be official. Feel like all the fall, basically. Right? Been waiting for this shoe to drop, Jason. So, now what? What are your thoughts?
Well, and we're going to talk about that part that question later on when it comes to different happenings since this article came out. But when it comes to what OSHA came out with, correct. You and I have been talking about this whole vaccine mandate ever since Biden announced what he was going to do back in September. I believe September 9th or something like that, September 10th. But and we've had our discussions about it. But one thing we've already said was that it really doesn't mean anything until it becomes official. And now that date's here, like you said, January 4th is when all those employers had to have guidelines in place for those people to be vaccinated or submit the weekly testing or get fired. Um, and there it is. The one part though in that article that stood out to me when I first read this, even though logistically it makes sense, the federal government is largely relying on companies to self-enforce this rule. And essentially, well, I wouldn't read part of it here. In the case of the OSHA rule, enforcement will largely fall to companies themselves, with only a couple of thousand state and federal OSHA inspectors nationwide. There's no mechanism for checking up on every workplace to see whether it's in fact keeping vaccination and testing records. So basically, that's them saying they don't have enough people to obviously check every single employer of 100 or more to make sure they're doing this stuff. So essentially, they're going to be relying on people. Somebody complains to OSHA, essentially, or Department of Labor. That's when OSHA will get involved. Okay, so the McDonald's around the corner or whatever. Again, bad example because they don't have that many employees. But for example, somebody complains about it, they're either customer or employee. That's when OSHA or Department of Labor would do whatever investigative process they would do at that point, and then levy action or fines, what have you. So essentially, if an employer is confident and trustworthy that no one's going to complain about what's going on, they don't have to do any of this stuff. Technically, because nobody's checking on them, then you know what I mean. Um, so I find that to be one of the most interesting things about that. Now, one thing I'm going to throw in there before I let you go is employers that violate the rule can face fines of up to 13.6 thousand per violation. And for serious violations, it can be 10 times that for willful and repeated violations as well. So now that alone may be enough to say, you know what, I'm not going to take the chance. I'm not trying to get that fine because that's a lot of money. Probably some businesses more than others. But what are your thoughts on the fine and the fact that OSHA is leaving it up to basically the employers themselves and the people that work there to basically police themselves?
Well, my first thought, Jay, is that excuse me. So my first thought, Jay, is that number one, we've talked about this vaccine mandate literally since the inception of this podcast. So um it's been a long time coming. I mean, we knew basically once we were starting to see some of the major healthcare um organizations within certain states, for example, start to indicate, hey, you got to get vaccinated by X date, otherwise, you know, you're gonna have to find employment elsewhere. Once I saw that, and once I saw some of the Supreme Court challenges, I felt like, okay, it's only a matter of time. And so, um, what what I what I do find fascinating is that ultimately, much like police officers can't catch everybody speeding, the whole premise is to at least create some semblance of guidelines so that we can encourage for as long as we can. And I think eventually, yeah, I mean, it's all about enforcement, but the best way forward for this initiative, I think, is just getting companies to take the lead. And if companies take the lead, then guess what? Government doesn't have to be as involved and heavy-handed as some of these people in the United States feel that government is being heavy-handed. So, but you know, hell, OSHA's been around a hell of a lot longer than COVID has. So this would not be the first time that you've had a governing body like that effectively indicate, hey, this is what you need to do in order to conduct business. So those are my thoughts.
Do we need to fact check that? Has OSHA really been around longer than COVID? Because I don't know. I feel like COVID's been around for a long time. I mean, obviously the pandemic's a different story, but I feel like I don't know. I don't know. We might have to fact check that one, buddy. I don't know.
Well, you can Marjorie Green the fuck out of this thing. I don't really care, and I'm not trying to say that you're just as crazy as she is, but I am saying that um, I'm fairly confident that OSHA's been around for a bit.
I didn't say they weren't, but
Yeah.
so I mentioned some different happenings. So that article we were talking about was from the 4th. And obviously OSHA did come out with that stuff there. But as you also mentioned, there have been legal challenges, people wanting, not people, but the states wanting to sue over it and things like that, which is a real thing as well. And that was actually decided today when it comes to like hearings and whatnot. But basically, per an article from Fox News, OSHA suspends enforcement of COVID-19 vaccine mandate for large businesses. Suspension comes after federal appeals court decision to uphold the stay on the mandate. So essentially, they're still going through all this the court stuff. So they said, you know what, we're going to suspend it as of right now. It still could be January 4th. I mean, somehow I doubt court proceedings aren't going to go that fast. So it still could happen January 4th, but it's still suspended right now. So, and again, that article is as of 2 hours ago, so pretty recent. Um, so I can't say I'm surprised with all the pushback they've gotten. I mean, there are 24 states looking to sue over this, just shy of half. So I can't say I'm not surprised by this. And obviously, all the people that it's made mad about it, stuff like that. So here we are. Um, the only, and obviously I'm a part of this, unfortunately, but the only sad part about it is that how many. Now this doesn't become a thing if it gets thrown out. How many people had to lose their jobs before this because of the vaccine mandate in the first place? Because that employer chose to create a vaccine mandate, either because of Biden stuff or otherwise. So,
Or because of their own volition, they decided, hey, it was the community good. Because some companies did opt to do that before um, the word came down from on high, as I'll put it.
agreed.
So, some people may applaud businesses that basically said, hey, in order for us to be a to restore the economy to what it hopefully once was and what you hope it to be in the future, this is the health protocols you got to have in place to proceed with that, and the powers that be made those decisions. um yeah, honestly, I'm not all that surprised that that for some of these states, every state wants to act as though if it is a country of its own, until of course it's like a fucking major, weather event like a hurricane or an earthquake, and all this federal money, you bet your sweet ass they're not turning it down.
It's interesting that you put it that, and I know maybe a small number, granted, but it's interesting you mentioned, businesses putting this in place to help the economy, but yet it's an action that obviously we've seen it is putting people out of work. Now, granted, yeah, there's people choosing to do so, but still, I just find it funny. Again, I'm not saying you're wrong and correct, but when it comes to, somebody doing this, maybe that might have been a thought to help the economy. I get it. But I just find it funny that it's helping the economy, but yet people out of work because of it. So I just find that interesting. Um, yeah. So uh, that's again, I know it's a very small percentage of people that lost it, that chose to not get vaccinated because of this stuff, but that's as of right now. So we could see more. Now that this is, it's suspended now, but if this becomes official again, January 4th, or whenever the date's going to be, we could be seeing more. So
Or you could be seeing less because
true. Okay.
people could make a business decision and say, okay, um, I'm gonna put it to you like this. So let's say you work for company A. They decide to take their own version of some non-Biden or OSHA flavored version of a vaccine mandate. We don't even get into that. We don't even reference it because for some people or some companies rather, they could literally say, "Hey, we understand this is the OSHA regulations. Our regulations are above that." I'm just giving a hypothetical here. And then someone was an employee of company A. They said, "Oh, fuck that. I'm out." Okay. Well then, unless you plan on hitting the COVID lottery tomorrow or getting a sugar mama or a sugar daddy, hey,
It's
play your
2021,
cards
bro.
right.
It's
Play,
2021.
play, play your cards right. Yeah, I would say you're gonna have to come up with a game plan because otherwise, it's like, okay, you're gonna look for the one fucking employer that's not subject to this. It's. This is why I compared it to like, man, some of y'all trying to run out the clock. Like, um, you're one of the Knicks players in the '90s, one of them 71 to 72 fucking games, man.
I know I can bring up the Knicks with that. I don't know, but
Because one, I hate the Knicks. As a Bulls fan, I hate the Knicks. I hate you, and I hate your guts. Um, yeah, because it was horrible basketball. That's why I bring it up. It was hideous basketball. Everyone that loves to complain about the NBA today, I simply offer the Knicks of the '90s as a counterpoint. They were offensively challenged, my good man. That's what I'm saying.
you know, you mentioned people saying peace out to their employer because their company's vaccine mandate and hoping to find a company that is not subject to this. Well, I guess that depends because two things. One, again, it's suspended as of right now, so no company may be subject to this at all. And then two, again, OSHA a lot of people self police their companies. So again, there could be plenty of companies out there that say, you know what, we're not going to do this. We're not going to. We'll take the fine if we have to, the first one anyway, and go from there. So I will tell you, and obviously it may not happen now, but there are definitely companies out there, major global companies, definitely more than 100 people working in a building at the same time. They've said nothing to their employees about this, even before the suspension happened. So, and obviously they still could have before January 4th, but given that this didn't come out till today about the suspension today, basically would have been giving people a month and a half to fall in line with the vaccines or if they're going to get it or test out of it. You know what I mean? So, um, yeah. So I don't think it's necessarily run out the clock or anything like that. It's just, again, not to keep harping on it, but case in point, people just don't want to be put in that situation to have to do
I
something
mean,
that they
I
shouldn't
mean,
have to do by their
I
employer.
mean,
So
they're in that situation, whether it's about their employer or not, because they're on a thing called planet fucking Earth. Um, so my point in bringing that up is not is not to is not to. I'm not really trying to stick it to the unvaccinated, but what I am trying to say that is, um, ironically, I love that you just let me get that joke off, dog. Stick it to the unvaccinated, like the jab.
I was
Um,
trying to move on, sir. Move on.
but I'm still here. So time is of the essence, whether it's for your employment situation, whether it's for your health situation. Um, you know, I'm approaching it from I'm gonna approach this from a very pragmatic viewpoint, which is a person who fancies himself a a compassionate capitalist. And I understand that sounds like a fucking oxymoron, but yeah, I'm not gonna lie. I like money, and I'm not so wrapped up in it that I'm not um sensitive to people's concerns. But I'm also basing my approach towards uh mandated vaccinations like this, and I look in terms of, okay, how much fucking money has been lost by companies because COVID has riddled our society to the point that people don't even want to go to shit in person. Think, certain industries may never come back. Certain companies may never come back. Certain people may say, like, you know what, this is the last straw. I don't have it in me to try and start another business venture, right? So you know for me there are multiple levels of casualties, right? Because think about all the businesses that closed, like every mom and pop business, hell, a lot of quick service restaurants, thank god that they're still standing today. Like, in addition to the fact that you've got a hiring crunch because you know I hate the I just hate this feeling that people say people just don't want to work. I'm like, no, people will work. Just don't expect them to show up for peanuts. And then number two, be a little more sensitive. Like, a shit ton of people lost lives the last 24 months. And to act as though if that hasn't had an effect on our human capital situation in America, the the world, supply chain situation, to ignore that, I think is crazy. And that's why I'm approaching it from a perspective of, capitalism, but also from a perspective of compassion. Because it's like, hey, we have all lost a lot. Assuming you're still alive and you're in a position to still complain about it, a lot of us have lost a lot. Um, and that's why this mandate came into place in the first place. So
Well,
that's just my thoughts on it. Um, I'm not trying to change anybody's mind, uh, because, well, that's a waste of fucking time. But that's definitely my perspective right now.
well, we can go ahead and end it unless you got something else to say. But personally, I just think it's an overreaction. Uh, I I don't think I can speak up for this perspective when it comes to people say that Biden is overstepping his legal authority when it comes to this stuff. That's what the courts are fighting about now. That they feel like he doesn't have the right to do this. Well, he says obviously he does. So either way, I think it's a complete overreaction, frankly. Um, and I'll leave it at that.
So, if I were to say, for example, that truancy laws were an overreaction to motherfuckers not making sure that their kids show up to school, what would you say?
I would say that, well, personally, I don't think, well, it's your kid. So I'll say this: it's your kid. You know, you don't want your kid going to school. Whether if you're willing to allow that kid not to go to school, that's up to you. That should be up to you. is what it is. I would have to question things when it comes to, okay, you're gonna let your kid drop out at 6, or whatever. But at the end of the day, it's your kid.
It's your kid until I have to deal with your kid. It's your kid, but ironically, your kid does not live by his or herself.
Why? Okay, so explain to me why you had to deal with somebody else's kid just because they don't go to school or get the COVID vax.
It's the
I'm talking
same
about you.
reason. No. It's the same reason why people love to bitch and moan about paying taxes and some of that tax money going into the school district. And people will say, "Well, I don't even have kids. Why the fuck do I have to pay this?" Or my kids are grown. Why do I give a fuck about the school district? I'm like, you're benefiting from the big community pull that a first tier school district would generate. Uh, your my thought would be, why do you want to live in a fucking community of dumbass kids?
Nobody does, but I get the point that someone's trying to make is, I get both points. I mean, obviously, I don't have kids. Clearly, I still pay taxes on schools, which you know is what it is. Maybe stupid, but I get your point when it comes to obviously it does benefit the community. But like we talk about the whole taxing the rich and and stuff like that. Maybe the people with kids should pay more taxes for the schools. How about that, Terrence,
Well, I
Mister?
would
I have
love.
3.
Well, I would love for you
Go to
to
his
come
house,
up.
take his money.
I'm flattered you think I have some.
Well, yeah, we just said you
But
have 3
yeah,
kids. Of course, you don't have any money. So
right. So yeah, man. I fight that argument tooth and nail because people seem to like the allure, the 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 results, the crop, the yield from having you know better education, better socioeconomic deal, situation for kids in your school district. But and listen, I'm not saying that. Ironically, the reason a lot of those taxes are out of control is because we're not taxing people that make more money, whether they have kids or not.
okay, if I've got off on a tangent here, that's not the main subject, but still, definitely pertinent points. But
Oh yeah, this is all important shit, dog. Because I'm like, yo, we talked about the mandate situation. We talked about. I get it. People don't like being told what to fucking do, even though it might be in their best interest. I get it, dog. I get it. For the first, the last, the fucking nth time, I understand.
do you?
I understand. So, but I also think there's a big chunk of people in their head when someone it could literally be you should do X, and even though it may be in your best interest, there's a part in people's brain that says "fuck you." I think there's a listen. I That's in me about a variety of other scenarios,
Folks, when you
right?
watch the video of this, you'll see me pointing the finger right at Terrence because he's talking about himself clearly, as I can attest to for the last 30 something years. I'm still pointing.
Well, you're still also pointing four fingers back at you.
Yeah, that's fine.
So
Yeah. Okay.
I appreciate
Here's
that.
4 more. There you go.
Yep. All right. Well, I think that concludes this segment on the OSHA
OSHA, OSHA,
regulations.
OSHA.
Coming up next, we're going to be talking about the infamous InfoWars captain, which is Alex Jones, and how he got into some hot water and frankly justified. Coming up next on Cal Park Rose.